outside the ship, discharged the cargo from the ship into the barge, lightening the load. The man in charge of one of these was known as a lighterman. Now these barges we're passing, these are old traditional Thames barges designed for this river. They could be towed the length of this river under any bridge, in and out of any dock. Now the only stuff we travel up and down the Thames today by tug and barge is London's household rubbish, which I think is a great shame really when you consider you're going upstream on what was once the busiest motorway in the world, and we now use our waterways less than any other country in Europe. Now all the land to the right hand side, this is known as the Isle of Dogs. It's a great big horseshoe shaped bend in the Thames today. And I guess the name the Isle of Dogs actually dates back to when the royal families lived in the royal palace of Greenwich. Back in them days it was all old marshland over there, and a strip of water ran right the way around it, making it an island. When the likes of Henry VIII lived in Greenwich, it was over there where he'd keep his hunting dogs. And as the sailing barges would sail round a large bend in the river, the sails would start flapping, the dogs would start barking, got known as the Island of Dogs. Later on was turned into the docks. As I said earlier, there was the Millwall dock, the West India dock, the East India dock, and in the docks there was a wharf where the ships come over from the Canary Islands. The Fred Olsen shipping line used to bring us cargoes of fruit to the Canary Wharf. Over the years the docks closed down and all the land was bought up by two Canadian brothers called the Wrightman brothers, and they have now turned this into the new financial heart of Europe. And they're not finished yet. They reckon by the end of this decade there'll be at least another 15 to 20 tower blocks over there, and they say once completed will actually look more like the Manhattan area than New York. Now as we pass the last yellow block of apartments on the right, that is pretty much where the Isle of Dogs ends. It now enters a part of land in East London known as Limehouse. If you go back through the history books and you research Limehouse, you will actually see that that was the original Chinatown in this country. If we talk about Chinatown today, people straight away say Soho, the West End of London. But this is where it all first began. When the first of the Chinese come to this country, they come over on the ships and into the docks, and that's where many of them settled. There still is a very big Chinese community in Limehouse today. In fact, has anyone ever read the old Sherlock Holmes books? Do you remember him chasing evil Moriarty through the gambling dens and opium dens of Chinatown? That's the Chinatown he based it upon, in the East End of London. Now also coming up on the right is an opening in the river wall. This is the entrance to the lime kiln dock. Now it was actually up the end of there when it had the lime kilns, basically where they made the bricks to rebuild London after the Great Fire of London of 1666. It was Charles II on the phone at the time. After the Great Fire, he said London may no longer be built by timber, but will be built by brick and stone. That's where a lot of the brickwork come from, to rebuild the city. Now keep looking to the right, in between the houses there's a pub. It's got gold lettering right on the top, the Grapes of Limehouse. A very old and historical pub. It was actually in the attic there where Charles Dickens lives when he wrote one of his most famous novels, And Mutual Friend. Talking of pubs, keep looking to the right, another one coming up. This one's a red brick building with a green conservatory. It's called the Narrowing Limehouse. This is one of Gordon Ramsay's gastro pubs. I found out the difference between a gastro pub and a normal pub only a few weeks ago. Anyone know what the difference is? Well, it's about another £5.5 a pint. Before we go past it, there's an opening in the river wall. The bridge on the top is Limehouse Marina. This was always known as the Regent's Dock. If you go to the back of the Regent's Dock, you can join the Regent's Canal. And once you join the Regent's Canal, you join over 300 miles of canal system. You can get in a small narrow boat and you can navigate up to places like Birmingham and Manchester. We dug them canals out by hand nearly 400 years ago to bring cargoes up and down from the north of England. And then someone invented the train and we pretty much got where they were. Now coming up on the left hand side, there is a building with a red crane on the outside. On the top it says Globe Wharf. Now you'll see many buildings with the word wharf on the top, and people ask us what does it mean. Well, the word wharf actually means warehouse at River Thames. Look how it's been built right on the river's edge. Imagine years ago on the high water, the tugboat barge or a small coaster, a small ship would go outside there. They'd use the crane to pick the cargo up and put it straight in the warehouse. The warehouse at River Thames. But look what they've replaced them with over here on the right, this red brick monstrosity. Looks like it's been designed by a 5-year-old with his Lego bricks. It's actually a very clever design. There's over 480 apartments over there, and every single one of them gets a riverside view. Obviously, the more views, the more valuable. Now, if you keep looking to the right, because coming up in between all the old warehouses, there's a small white painted building. This is the Prospect of Whitby. This is the oldest registered pub on the banks of the River Thames. It dates back to 1520. It was built and opened in the reign of Henry VIII. Now, an awful lot of history has gone on in that pub. It was known for the famous pirates who used to use it, but it was also known for the notorious press gangs. It's in a place called Shadwell, which used to be an old shanty town. And what would happen, the press gang would hang around outside a pub like this, waiting for a young man to come out after having one too many, and they would then cosh him over the back of the head. When he wakes up, when he comes round, he's aboard the ship, he's on his way out to sea, and he's just been press ganged into the Royal Navy. Maybe he wanted to join the Royal Navy back then, or like he was no more than 2 years, or time of scurvy. Something far worse. Keep looking to the right, Metropolitan Wharf, New Crane Wharf. See how they've been built on the river's edge? This is how this part of London used to be, from Tower Bridge, either side of the river. All old warehouses like this. There was such little space, they were nearly all built alongside each other. But there was one or two little gaps. If you look to the right hand side, as we go past New Crane Wharf, you'll see a small flight of stairs coming into the river. These were the old waterman's stairs, and these were basically for the people who used to get to work out here. Someone would go over there in a rowing boat, pick them up off the stairs and take them out to the tugs and barges. But if you keep looking to the right, you'll see how the face of the river's changed. You see the new apartments. They set them back ever so slightly so people can have their lovely riverside walks. If you're ever lucky enough to be able to afford a riverside apartment, go for an old warehouse conversion. This building on the right, Gulf Wharfs, it's over 150 years old, that building. That stood through 2 world wars, and it also survived the war of the property developer, or done more damage on the banks of the Thames than both the world wars put together. Now, I'm no architect, but the walls of that building are 18 inches solid brickwork, and believe you me, that's far better built than any of your modern day apartments. Now, if you keep looking to the right, coming up, we've got a pier with the police boats. The River Thames Police is actually the oldest uniformed police force in the world. It was founded back in the 15th century by the East India Shipping Company. There was such terrible problems on this river with piracy and smuggling. East India, they were very big and powerful at one time, and they were so fed up of their ships being robbed while they were in port waiting to be unloaded. It basically started out as a private security firm. Other companies started paying the East India's section money to look after their ships, and then they founded the Thames River Police, and 25 years later they founded the famous Bow Street Police. Well folks, as we come round the next bend in front of us, coming up is the Tower Bridge. Now, before we get to Tower Bridge, we will call it our first stop, which is St Catherine's for the Tower of London. Now, there is you have a few minutes till we get there, folks. When we do get there, we will pretty much be straight in, straight out. Before we get there though, look up the river in front of us on the left, dominating the skyline, we have the Shard. At the moment, the Shard is still the tallest tower block in Western Europe. It stands 1,016 feet tall. It comprises of many different things: a luxury 5-star hotel, private apartments, a few different restaurants, and the top of the viewing gallery. Just become the most expensive viewing gallery in the world. If you wish to go up there, they will now charge you £30. Now if you want a far cheaper option, look to the right hand side. See the building which gets wider at the top with different colour glass on the front? This is called the walkie-talkie. Now this also has a viewing gallery. The top of it is called the Sky Garden, and if you book it online in advance you'll get 45 minutes up there completely free of charge. There is one problem with the Sky Garden. Where it's free, they say it's not getting booked weeks but actually months in advance, which isn't surprising really. In front of us, the Tower Bridge. It opened in 1894. It's a twin suspension and a bascule bridge. When I say a bascule bridge, I mean the lower section of the centre arch can actually raise in two halves like giant drawbridges to allow larger shipping like the Belfast in and out the upper port of London. Well folks, very shortly, as I say, we're going to call it our first stop, which is St Catherine's for the Tower. So for the people leaving us, I'll say please have a good look around you and ensure you have all your personal belongings. For the people leaving us, I hope you've enjoyed your trip upstream on board the Tom's Frigate, and I do hope you've enjoyed the few points and places of interest. As I pointed out at the beginning, and I'm sure you've all realised, we're not professional guides on here, but unfortunately they don't employ professional guides. All they do, when you buy your ticket, you get a little leaflet. In the leaflet there's a map, and that's your guide. Us, the crew, feel it's a bit of a waste of time really for you to come on the river and not have anyone tell you what you're looking at, so we try and have these little talks with you. We don't get paid as guides and we don't make a charge for this. There's a lot of people on board who haven't understood a word I've said. So all we do on here, we leave it up to you, the individual. If you've listened to the commentary, you've enjoyed it and you'd like to show any appreciation for my efforts, you can do so as you leave the boat. By the exit will be the old champagne bucket, and this is for any appreciation that you might like to show. We feel this is the fairest way. On that note, I'd like to thank you all very much for your very kind attention. If you are leaving us, please take care when stepping from the boat to the pier. If you're staying on, as soon as we leave, I will continue with the commentary. But thank you all very much for your very kind attention during the commentary. So, thanks very much.
For watching my channel. It's me, Josie from Gandabel. I hope you enjoy my channel. For the viewers who come a bit late, I just want to let you know that we are actually in the ferry at the moment, and from Greenwich, and now we're going towards Embankment now. And I got all these beautiful buildings here in the River Thames, and we enjoy our day out for today for this ferry. And thank you so much for watching my channel. It's me, Josie from Gandabel. I'm gonna continue for a little while and hope you enjoy it. Just gonna film this one. Because there actually some people are coming in, and some people are getting out in the ferry. So it's just like changing passengers now. And I hope you can see the view, really nice. This is one of the stopping pier, which is depicted like catering something. So I hope you enjoy it. It's in the Tower Hotel at the moment. So I think the ferry is now going, so I can start filming
well, very good
again.
afternoon to the people just joining us here at St Catherine's. For the benefit of people joining us, by law we have to give you some safety information. It isn't meant to alarm you. It is something we have to do to comply with the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency regulations. On the roof of the vessel we carry inflatable life rafts, life rings all around the vessel. Life jackets are beneath the seating in the saloon, and in the lockers all clearly marked on the open top deck. As we make our way upstream, folks, I will continue pointing out a few places of interest. For the people who have just joined us though, just to let you know, I'm not a professional guide, so if I make any mistakes at all, please just bear with me. Now, Tower Bridge, it opened in 1894. It was built in the Gothic style to blend in with its surroundings. Through the bridge and on the right, we have the world famous Tower of London.
That's right, yeah.
Now, work first commenced on the tower under the orders of William the Conqueror in 1078. It has been used as many things in its time: a royal palace, a zoo, a mint, an observatory, most famously a prison and a place of execution. If you look to the river bank as we go past the tower, there's a bricked up archway. Above it, entry to the Traitors'
Tower
Gate.
of London.
If you was found guilty of your crimes at the Palace of Westminster, you'd have been rowed down the river, led up the once open archway, up onto Tower Hill, where you've then been executed. That is said to have been the first ever one-way street here in London. Now, coming up on the left-hand side is London's very own warship. This is the HMS Belfast. She was the largest of the light cruisers ever built for the British Royal Navy. She weighs 11,500 tons. She saw active service during World War II, and she last fired her guns in anger of the Korean campaign. Decommissioned from the Navy in the 1970s, brought here by the Imperial War Museum, she's now permanently moored up 7 days a week as a museum ship to the public. Now, coming up on the right hand side, there is a building behind the trees. This is the Water Guard House, the headquarters of Her Majesty's Customs and Excise. That is where they train those lovely smiling people who rip your bags apart when you get to the airport. Now, also to the right hand side, coming up, we have a lovely yellow brick building. It is the old Billingsgate Fish Market. A fish market stood on that site for just over 900 years, until the late 80s, when the tradition was sadly broken and it moved downstream to larger premises in the Docklands area. The building today is a private function hall. In front of us we have the New London Bridge. It's the fourth London bridge to span the river at this point. The first one was erected by the Romans in the year AD 43, and the present day bridge was erected by McAlpine and opened by Her Majesty the Queen in 1973. Before we go through the bridge though, coming up on the right there's a gap between the buildings. In the gap is a church. It's called St Magnet. It was designed by Sir Christopher Wren. It's over 400 years old. One of Wren's daughters was married in the church. But behind the church is a tall stone column with a golden top. This is Wren's monument to the Great Fire of London of 1666. Built to represent a candle, they do say it was a candle which started the fire in the baker's shop in Pudding Lane. Lay that on its end in an easterly direction, would touch the point of where the baker's shop once stood. Now coming up on the left hand side we have a small sailing ship in wet dock. This is the replica of Francis Drake's old ship. It's called the Golden Hind. Now Francis Drake was the first Englishman to navigate the world. As I say, a replica ship built down in Devon about 35 years ago to commemorate Drake's voyage. Now moored up as a museum, you pay a small fee and go on there. There's all the history of Sir Francis Drake. In front of us we have the Cannon Street Railway Bridge. And that's it really. There's no historical interest in this bridge whatsoever. Followed by the Southwark Road Bridge, which opened in 1921 and was originally built to relieve the strain from the old London Bridge. Now all the land to the left hand side, this is known as Bankside in the district of Southwark. In Elizabethan times, that's where you would have found all the old, it was the Red Light Entertainment area. Bear baiting pits, dog fighting pits, gambling dens, brothels, circuses, taverns, and also all the old theatres. Once we pass through the Southwark Bridge, coming up on the left, you'll see that one of the old theatres has been recreated. There is a white circular building with a thatched roof coming up. It is a replica of William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, and it was built at the dream of an American film director called Sam Wanamaker. It's the first building in London to be built entirely out of wood since the Great Fire of London of 1666. Go over there today and see an old Shakespearean play being reenacted as it would have been done back in Shakespeare's time. But also to the left, the building with the tall chimney is the old Bankside Power Station. Today the Tate Modern Art Gallery. If you're interested in modern art, go over there and see things like a pile of old bricks, half a cow in a jar, and even a light bulb that flicks on and off. Fantastic they are. You want to see a real work of art? As we pass beneath Norman Foster's Millennium Footbridge, look to the right where the bridge goes between the two buildings. At one point we had a lovely view of Sir Christopher Wren's masterpiece, St Paul's Cathedral. It took Wren 35 years to complete. It stands 365 feet tall and it's the second largest unsupported cathedral dome in Europe. The second to that of St Peter's in the Vatican City in Rome. The red brick building in front of St Paul's, you can see the name and the crest on the end, the City of London School. They tell us many of the people being educated over there will be running this country in a few years' time. Over there they teach you how to lie, cheat and steal. While I was saying that, a young man called Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, that's where he went to school over there. Well, we're now approaching a group of bridges, the first one being the Blackfriars Railway Bridge, followed by the Blackfriars Road Bridge. As we pass beneath, in the middle, is all that remains from the first ever railway bridge to span the River Thames, the old St Paul's Railway Bridge. It carried the first steam trains across the river for the Chatham-Dover railway system. Now the top half of the bridge was removed many years ago as it couldn't take the weight of the modern day trains. The reason these old pillars remain, they purposely built the new bridge as close as they could to the old one. The reason for that, all they had to do then was slightly divert the railway track and it wouldn't cause as much disruption. The downside to that is you pull the old pillars out, you'd actually undermine the foundations of the modern day bridge and it would become unsafe. That's why the old pillars still remain. Now through the bridge and coming up on the right, there is a building with a sloped roof and a spire in the middle. It is the old City of London School for Boys. Many famous people educated over there, people like Lord Asquith and Lord George, to about American Bank. Also to the right, the red brick Gothic style building to the Lion Church is the Zion College and Library. Houses over 300,000 very rare and expensive books, including Queen Victoria's own personal Bible and diary. Now also coming up on the right hand side, all the buildings behind the trees, This is known as the inner, the middle and the outer temple. Has anyone ever read the film or seen the book Da Vinci Code? They spoke about the temple an awful lot. That is where 70% of the legal profession in this country actually received their training. Now, as we passed under Tower Bridge, folks, we actually entered the 1 square mile city of London. Now, if you look to the right, just before we get to the large white ship, on the river bank is a stone archway, the Temple Arch. As we pass this, we leave the city of London behind us, and we now enter the city of Westminster. The large white ship is the Wellington, former sloop of the New Zealand Royal Navy, now permanently moored up as the floating livery board for the Honourable Company of Past Master Mariners. Now, coming up on the left-hand side, there is a building with an illuminated sign. It is the National Theatre. This building has been voted by 7 of London's top architects as being the ugliest looking building in London. Prince Charles described that as looking like the back end of a nuclear power station, and I actually think that most people would agree with him. In front of us we have the Waterloo Bridge, completed during the Second World War by the Land Army, and more affectionately known here on the Thames as the Ladies' Bridge. This is because the Land Army at that time was actually made up of 80% female labour. All our men were away fighting in the armed forces. Yeah. It's also, though, the only bridge to ever be completed on time and on budget. I think you'll all agree in saying what a lovely job the ladies done of building the Waterloo Bridge. As we pass beneath it, coming up in front of us, we have another one, and this is the busiest railway line on the River Thames. It's the Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Charing Cross Embankment stations over to your right, with Waterloo over to your left. It also incorporates the 2 pedestrian footbridges. The one the upper side is the Golden Jubilee Walkway. The one the lower side is the new Hunsford Footbridge. Before we go through the bridge though, to the left hand side, that building is all that remains from the Festival of Great Britain of 1951. The Royal Festival Concert Hall. It can accommodate up to 3,000 people, and it's said to be one of the finest concert halls anywhere in the world. It is situated on a part of land they call the South Bank. The South Bank today is one of the busiest parts of London. It never used to be though. Just over 20 years ago it was horrible over there and quite dangerous at the night time. Well, the entire area has been completely regenerated. The reason being, through the bridge and on the left, you can see it already, you can't miss the London Eye. Now, if you wanted to go on the London Eye when it opened back in 2000, you would have queued for 4 hours and paid £7.50. You'll be pleased to know there are no queues today. You won't be pleased to know why. The reason being, it is now £25. Since it opened in 2000, it has carried over 60 million customers. Well folks, very shortly we're going to come into Westminster Pier. This is where everybody must leave us. This boat now terminates. There's one more returning boat, or so the next returning boat, folks, is due to leave here in just over 5 minutes time. It leaves at 4:20, and it calls at all stops going back to Tower Bridge. It's the London Rose, the white boat on the pier. It will be departing at 4:20. After the boat at 4:20, there'll be one more returning boat back to the tower, which will leave at 5 o'clock. Well folks, I hope you've enjoyed your trip upstream on board Thomas Doggett. And for the people who joined us at the tower, I hope you've enjoyed the little commentary. As I pointed out at the beginning, and I'm sure you've all realised, we're not professional guides on these boats.
Thank you so much for watching my channel. It's me, Josie from
When you buy your
Greenwich.
ticket, you get a small
I'm
leaflet.
going to end my
In the
video
leaflet,
now.
you get a
I
map,
hope you enjoy
that's
this
your guide.
all
Now,
these
I suppose we
beautiful
feel it's a bit of a
buildings
waste
in
of
the
time
River
to come on the
Thames.
river and not
Now we're
everyone see
going to
what you're looking
stop
at.
soon.
So we try and have these little talk with you.
End up
We don't get
our
paid as guides, and obviously we don't
ferry-
make a charge for this, so lots of people haven't understood a word I've said.
ferry.
So what we do on here, we leave it up to you
Thank you so
individually. If
much.
you listen to the
It's me,
commentary, you've
Josie,
enjoyed it, and you'd like to
from
show any
Gandaville.
appreciation for my
Bye
efforts,
bye.
you can do so as you leave the boat. By the exit will be the old champagne bucket.